Alright, what is up, guys? So, as I'm sure you can see on the screen, and as I've been asked by quite a few people over the past few days, what my take on what SDF has recently said. And so I originally didn't really plan on responding to this because I don't think it's worth responding to yet, because pretty much anything I'm going to be saying is going to be completely my own, opinion, or not, well, obviously it's my opinion. It's going to be my own idea of what this could possibly mean, and we won't really know until next week. However, I don't, because there are a few things he said that are definitely a bit it's kind of hard to understand what he means exactly until we get his patch that comes out and shows exactly what he wants to do. However, I know for a lot of players that are new to the game that didn't play the playtest or anything, the game is incredibly different now than what it used to be. And as a player that, I haven't played, I'm not one of like I'm not one of like the OG veterans, like, people like Apollo are that played like all the way back to playtest 1 or 2 and played it a ton. I really didn't. I first played the game during playtest 3, and I probably played it for less than 10 hours. Playtest 4 probably played for around 20, and then playtest 5 I played actually quite a bit. And then obviously I've been playing nonstop since early access came out. But even with that being said, I know a lot of people haven't even played that much, or the way that were all the way back then. And the game back then was entirely different. It was an incredibly different game. And like SDF says, the way the game is now has kind of gone against his idea for the game. And so if he does mean that that's what he thinks the game should have been, or that was his idea of the game, then it obviously will be it'll be a lot different. And if that is the case, then I will be able to share some idea of what the game may look like coming forward. So to start off with, I'm just going to go over the post again. Here, I'd like to share a brief vision for the future of Dark and Darker with the players I briefly mentioned in the previous Q&A. Over the past few weeks, I've been thinking deeply about the current state and future of Dark and Darker, and have decided to completely change the direction of the game towards my original vision. Some of you may remember that I've occasionally said things that are completely contrary to the current state of the game. Things like wanting to remove random modifiers, wanting to remove duo queues, not liking gear-based matchmaking, wanting 1v3, and wanting shorter time to kills. Basically, okay, so what this here means is I don't think when he says the current state of the game, because I saw a lot of people being like really confused about what exactly this means. I think what he's saying is he's saying that he wanted things that are contrary to what players are saying they want. Because one thing that I'm sure a lot of you guys have known is historically, Iron Mace has catered to their player base a lot. I've said I haven't liked this on numerous occasions, and I don't think it was a good idea. And if you remember, it was about 2 wipes ago, I believe. It was before the Steam launch, so maybe 3 wipes. But there was a time where they said, because their player base is kind of low, and they said, we want to remove duo queue, and a lot of players are really upset about it, saying like, oh no, that's not, like, no, you can't remove duo, like duo is like, it's all we'll play, if you remove it we'll quit, all these other things. So they're like, okay, whatever, and they didn't remove it. But here, as they're saying, like, he's saying, I've said things that are completely contrary to the state of the game, that's like them saying he wants all of this. He wants to remove random modifiers. He wants to remove duo queue. He doesn't like gear-based matchmaking. He wants people to be able to 1v3. He wants shorter time to kills. He wants all of these things in the game. And contrary to what he has wanted, they have pushed the game in a different direction. How the game is now, 1v3ing isn't realistic. Time to kills are longer than almost ever. Obviously, we have random modifiers. We have duos. We have gear-based matchmaking. We have all of these things. I think the direction he wants the game to be in is really more of that hardcore dungeon crawler, the way the game used to be. And one thing about this that I'm really unsure of, that he mentions again, is I don't know exactly what they mean by remove random modifiers, because the game has always had random modifiers on your gear. It doesn't really make sense otherwise. For example, like, in my mind, what random modifiers means would be the stat rolls you get on it that's completely random, right? Obviously, the modifiers that are random. And if you remove those, like, let's take a pair of riveted gloves, for example. A pair of purple riveted gloves is 5 strength base, and they roll 3 stats. If you remove the 3 stat rolls, so what is left? Is it just the base with 5 strength? Because yes, that would make PvP significantly more balanced, because pretty much everybody has access to the same gear. Then, the problem with that becomes everybody has the same gear. Like, what's the point of getting more gold, grinding for gear? Like, all of that immediately goes out the window, and it's irrelevant, right? I have 30 kits of the exact same thing, and that's all. Like, there's no reason to get anything else. Alright, moving on. When I first established the vision for the game and started developing it, I wanted the game to simulate raw dungeon crawling as much as possible. However, I feel like dungeon crawling has become a sport, like weight classes in martial arts. This is the result of me running in the opposite direction of my original vision for a long time, continuously putting band-aids on it without finding a way to solve the fundamental problem. And we've had enough experience I can finally conclude that we should stick to the original vision. Yes, this right here is something I've said for a very long time. Iron Mace has, like, they've had, like, large issues that instead of ever fixing, they're just, like, they just kick it down the road, right? Like, it's just kicking the can down the road. It's like, eventually you're going to get to it, and it's going to be there again, and you're going to have to deal with it. You can't just keep pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off, because eventually that problem is going to be big enough that you have to deal with it. This is, like, map rotation, adding multiple queues in. These are all issues that it may have fixed for the moment, but it does not fix the game overall, right? That's the problem. One thing is, I will say this too, is like going back up here to what he said before, the you know, shorter time to kills, wanting 1v3. So the thing with this is to an extent, it makes the game less balanced, but in a way, the game is more balanced for it. You know, and I know that sounds really stupid, but it's kind of taking the logic of if everything's broken, nothing's broken, right? Like, so if you guys remember way back in the day, I'm sure some of you do, I'm sure some of you don't, you weren't even there. Pretty much every character in this game used to one-shot, like, every character. Like, crossbows and longbows used to get, like, 60, 70 base damage. People had, like, 100 health. Like, wizards had, like, 100 health. And if a wizard fireballed you, like, direct, they would one-shot you. With that being said, rangers, fighters, you know, they could very easily one-shot other characters. Like, I've seen many, many times where a ranger hit a headshot on somebody with a longbow, or if you know, a fighter crossbowed somebody with that, like, headshot crossbow, and they just one-shot them from full. And that was the game we played. And it's like, you know, like I said, a great example would be Warlock. One of the most infuriating things about Warlock is how much, you know, how hard they are to kill, how much like a cockroach they are. They just perma-heal, they have Phantomize, they have all these other things. If they're just getting one shot from full HP, they're healing, they're Phantomize, none of that really matters anymore. You know, when it comes to Cleric, if you're a wizard, like you think like Bard Wiz Cleric, notoriously one of the most, you know, hard to play against comps in High Roller. Because the wizard literally gets the front line because they have endless support from the Cleric healing them. If your wizard just gets insta-killed, they can't do that because they stepped up into the front line, got shot by one crossbow or one ranger shot, and just died. And like I said, to an extent, while the game would be less balanced, it would also be more balanced at the same time because it's the logic of, you know, you have everything killing everything. It's like, yes, you can one-shot me, but I can also one-shot you back. And I don't know if I necessarily want that to come back. I mean, maybe it'll work. We don't really know, but it certainly is interesting, right? It's definitely like an interesting concept to explore. Going back to where we were though. He said, David said, of course this may not be the right answer, but we're still learning a lot as we develop. Damn, let's find another direction then. But I feel hopeful that the key to solving many of the problems that exist now lies there. We're going to completely change the fundamental areas of the game related to items in the future. In short, we're going to minimize the impact of grinding on PvP. Grinding will expand in a direction that is more self-satisfying than a direction that affects PvP. So this is where I kind of have an issue. Obviously, I'm sure you guys can imagine. So the problem with this is yes, it would make your game a more balanced game for PvP. If you get less rewarded for putting in, you know, hours and hours and hours, like if I spend 50 hours a week and you spent 10 hours and it closes the gap between that, that is fantastic for you. However, this kills people's drive to play your game past a certain level. Because one of the most attractive things about this game is being able to get better gear after you play, like feel like the noticeable increase in strength, that type of thing. If you reduce that and, you know, you've kind of equalized gear so you don't really have to grind for it, it doesn't feel nearly as good to get it. You know, if you kill somebody with really good gear, or, you know, because there won't be any good gear anymore, right? Effectively. But if you kill these really good players, one of the best parts about killing really good players, one, yes, you beat them. Fantastic. Awesome. Two, it's the moment right after when you then get to loot them and see what they had on. Seeing those, you know, really good items that you know are worth a lot of gold, or, you know, you want to use, like all of these random things that are like, it's amazing. Oh my god, this item's so sick. I love having this. That is one of the best feelings in this game. And it's like, it's not just this game. Any dungeon crawler, you know, like looter shooter, any game like that. The best feeling is when that BIS item drops, right? Like that really sick piece of loot. That is the best thing. And if you take that away, not only is it going to immediately affect, like, the people that are going to notice, like I said, immediately, it's your higher tier players. Your people that are spending a lot of time on this game, the high roller players. And people are like, oh, well, they're only a minor percentage of the player base. Yes, that's true. However, that's only who it's going to affect immediately. After, I don't know, a couple weeks or whatever, when these other players are like, oh, I mean, I've seen basically no other good gear. Like the only, like, let's say you're used to playing in like greens and blues, and you get your purple drop, and it's just base 5 strength riveted gloves. That's all. Like, it's just slightly better than your blue or your green or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's good for you because when you fight people with those items, it's easier for you to win. But whenever you finally get them yourself, you realize that it's kind of disappointing. And yes, that is how most people will eventually experience the game. And that's just not very good. One of the most, motivating things for this game, especially when, like, let's say, like, a fresh wipe comes, like, oh, man, I can't wait to start off and, grind up and get really good gear again. That's one of the most fun things. And it just kind of removes that from the game. So I don't really know how I feel about this. I mean, if they do it the way I've been thinking of, because, I mean, they have never specified, and this is one of the main reasons I think I need to wait to see the patch. This is, right here, is I'm just not sure. If they do it poorly, I think this could literally kill off their entire player base very, very easily. I just don't see how that would work. If you remove the ability to get really, really good items and everything is equalized, it automatically just kills a very, very large motivator to play this game and a very, very large source of enjoyment for the game. But going on, and also the thing that says like grinding with standing direction is more self-satisfying. I'm not sure what they mean by this. Like maybe they mean like rank, I guess. I don't really know. But if the thing is, like, grinding to get good gear, like, while it has an effect on PvP, that is also satisfying. Getting that really good gear, that is enjoyment. That is, like, personal enjoyment. But moving on, for an extreme example, sometimes a player with a common rarity item may win against a player with a legendary rarity item. Of course, in reality, the player with the legendary rarity item will have a statistical advantage. At least I hope there's hope for a reversal. This is already the case. Obviously, right now, it's probably a bit harder. Like, if you run into somebody that's in Squire Kit versus somebody full Legendary Bis, the chance that they win are slim to none, but it technically is possible. If you change it, and, like, the difference between, like, a common rarity item and a legendary rarity item is simply 3 or 4 base stats, and that's all, like I said, it just... The person with the legendary rarity item, like, you should feel a sense of strength. Like, you should feel like your gear is really good. Like, you should never go into a fight against somebody with base kit and be like, oh, yeah, man. Like this is a hard fight. I've got to lock in. Like, I hate to say it. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me there, but that's just how it is. Like, this is what I mentioned with the grinding thing. Why should I spend the time to get legendary items and, do that if I'm not getting a very, like, an advantage from it? Like, that's the point of gear, is to give you an advantage. And then we'll continue to experiment and perfect this for the rest of the season. Maybe the rarity system will be removed, or the random modifiers will be removed during the process of change and development, or maybe they will still be in the game. The above will not be reflected immediately in hotfix 67 today, but starting from the next hotfix 68, we'll gradually proceed with the patch toward this vision. Let's all watch where the ship is going. No, let's row the ship together. Whatever. So yeah, this is... I don't think the random modifiers can go. I think like that is like very key element to this game that is going to make players really, really enjoy it. And other than that, there's not really a ton to talk about. I think the main thing... Oh my god, my nose is stopped up. God, I sound awful. Sorry. So the main thing that comes to this is just going to be how the gear is done. I think this patch coming up either next week or the week after that, whenever they release hotfix 68, we are going to see a very, very large shift in the way this game is played, and I consider it being pretty drastic. I think the one thing... So I will say this, no matter what they do this season, I don't think they can make the game worse, except for one thing, and I pray to God they don't bring back plus all attributes. That is one of the worst things in the game to ever exist, and I pray to Jesus Christ they leave it out. That is, I think, has ruined this game on so many levels, and if they do anything but bring that back, I will be okay with it. I think the game right now is an incredibly stale state, and I definitely want some changes. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're changing gear again, middle of the season. But, I mean, me personally, like, I don't really care. I just want the game to feel different, right? And, like I was saying, the thing I wanted to get at towards the end, kind of like sharing my own idea on this, is if we consider, like, how the game is now, how the game has been for the past, like, several months against SDF's vision, because I know a lot of people are reading this and thinking of it, and they're like, oh, they're going to kill this game, they're going to drive it into the ground. But you have to consider this. The game we play now is so much different than the game we, originally played, or that originally came out during the playtest, during the beginning of Early Access. However, that game, that base, is the one that attracted so many players. And if you consider that is closer to SDF's idea, maybe that really is better for the game. Because, like I said, this game, with all its bugs, all its flaws, all its poor balance, it attracted a ton of players to the game back then. So, like I said, genuinely speaking, I don't know how good this will be. I think we'll have to see. However, SDF, he made this game. He helped make this game in his idea originally. And that is the original idea and the original concept that succeeded. So, whether or not that works out, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But anyways, that is going to wrap it up for me. I will catch you guys next time. So feel free to leave your opinions or thoughts on obviously on the patch, but his announcement down below. And I'll make another video going over the next patch that we get, 68. Yeah, catch you guys next time. Peace.